Welcome all. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Cassie Fortes. I'm the Program Development Officer for the Sacramento MBDA Export Center. I'd just like to welcome you and thank you for being here today and being interested and excited to learn about how to access the Chinese e-commerce market. Today we have exciting speakers to talk about the e-commerce market and also talk about the Sacramento MBDA and how we can help you get into international markets. But first, a few housekeeping items. All participants will be muted upon entry, and if you have any technical issues or questions, you can leave them in the comment box. The webinar will also be recorded, so that will be sent to you following this webinar. And lastly, if you have any questions for myself or the presenters, please leave them in the Q&A box, and we'll go ahead and get to those at the end of the webinar. And so first, I'd like to pass it over to Saori Choulos. She's the International Business Account Manager for the Sacramento MBDA, and she's going to start us off with a short introduction of our center. Saori.
Great, thank you so much, Cassie. So welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here with us today. My name is Saori Choulos, and I am the International Business Accounts Manager of the Sacramento Minority Business Development Agency Export Center. We are excited to work with the Bay Area Council to bring you this webinar, and I know that it will bring tremendous valuable information in growing your business. Before we get started, I would like to just take a few minutes to provide a very brief introduction of our Export Center. Next slide, Cassie. So for those who may not have heard of the Minority Business Development Agency, also known as MBDA, the MBDA is a federally funded agency under the U.S. Department of Commerce and is tasked to support the growth of global competitiveness of minority business enterprises, also known as MBEs. We provide technical assistance and resources, and at Sacramento, our mission is to help minority businesses succeed as exporters to the Asia Pacific. This slide shows our website address, so please feel free to go there to learn more, as well as information that we provide through our newsletter. Our center is operated by the Cal Asian Chamber of Commerce, and we are one of 4 export centers that help MBEs grow their international footprint. Our geographic focus is the Asia Pacific. However, we have 3 other export centers across the country that focus on other areas, including the Caribbean, Africa, and Latin America. Next slide, Cassie. To keep this introduction brief, I won't go into detail of all the services that we provide, but this is a visual that just shows, a highlight of the services that we can provide to your business. So we can certainly share these slides to you after the webinar, and you are welcome to reach out to learn more about how to access contracts, capital, meet with buyers as well as suppliers, and for us to help working with you to continue to grow your business through exporting. Next slide, Cassie. So while our focus is on the Asia Pacific rim, we can be open to global opportunities for clients. That's illustrated in this example that we do share on our website. Next slide. And in addition to the international opportunities, we may also include domestic opportunities for you. And the next slide. And this is just to highlight a couple of events that we do have coming up. We do recognize that small businesses are going through tremendous challenges as a result of COVID-19. We continue to provide information and resources to support the business community, including these 2 upcoming webinars. So please check them out on our website and feel free to register. Next slide. And 2 more opportunities to share with you. The first one is the Sacramento MBDA Export Center Open House webinar. I hope that you will join us on the 15th of October to learn more about how we can support you in growing your business through our Export Center. It's a little bit more informal, a lot of time for Q&A and just getting to know each other, getting to know the team, and for us to get to know your business a little bit more. So please feel free to join us. Additionally, we are thrilled to partner with the Bay Area Council at the China International Import Expo in Shanghai, and would love for you to join us as well. So please contact us for more details. Cassie, who is here with us at the webinar, she is running this on our end at the Export Center. And of course, we have Alex here as well with the Bay Area Council. So please join us to learn more about how you can showcase your business in Shanghai. Next slide. So this pretty much wraps it up. This was a brief overview, but if you do have questions about our export services, please do feel free to reach out to me or Cassie. I just want to thank you again for joining us. And now I am pleased to present Alex Foard, Director of Business Development at the Bay Area Council, who will share with us how to access the Chinese e-commerce market through TMall. So thank you. And welcome, Alex.
Thanks for that introduction, Saori. And welcome, everybody. So happy to be here. Really appreciate this opportunity to talk with everybody about this. Trying to find a way for California exporters to be more visible in e-commerce in China has been kind of a project we've been looking at for a few years now, really. And over the last few months, really with the motivation from all the shutdowns and COVID-19, this was a great time for us to say, let's focus on this project. Let's see if we can really make some progress in the e-commerce space for California exporters. So as a kind of, to set this up a little bit, this presentation will be kind of instructional on how we have gone about trying to put an export store together on a specific site, TMall, which I'll go into what that platform is a little later. So if the approach we've taken and if the store we're trying to put together isn't necessarily directly applicable to you or products you'd like to export, I hope you still find kind of the lessons we've learned as we've gone through the process of setting a store up still instructional, still valuable. So with that said, Cassie, go move on to the next slide. So very briefly, not intending to make this a presentation about us, but just so you have a little bit of background on our organization. The Bay Area Council is a business-backed public policy group for the 9-county Bay Area. For the most part, all of our work is focused on regional public policy to kind of just support businesses throughout the Bay. Not long ago, though, we started a China initiative, kind of behest of a lot of our members, to support a lot of local government relations in China. Shortly after that, we started working with with GoBiz, Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, to be a part of the China Trade Network. Now, trade in and of itself is not a particular strong suit of the Bay Area Council, but we have had a number of staff in our offices in China to support kind of on the ground work for exporters. So we've been in a position, while this is not necessarily our major competency, we do have a network we've been able to connect people to importers and kind of help facilitate deals, working with customs, et cetera. But we've really wanted to formalize that into something kind of stable, something where every year we can say, this is how we can help get stuff sold in China. And that's where this project to set up a California TMall store kind of came from. Next slide, Cassie. So what was the goal of doing this? Pretty straightforward, kind of already mentioned it. We just wanted to make the process of getting into e-commerce really easy as it can be. And I thought, kind of going into this, that how hard could it really be? which I think is going to be on my epitaph at some point, because turns out it was really hard to just go in and try to set a store up. So hopefully you'll learn shortly from all of the, I'm not saying mistakes we've made, but the lessons we've learned in what it takes to get something, get your own space set up out there. So this is, I mean, the goals are pretty straightforward. We're trying to make this accessible. Cassie, next slide. Let's actually move on to the next one too. I'll come back to this. So for a lot of you, you may already know, why e-commerce is a valuable place, is a valuable market to be in China. For a few folks that might not, I have a few slides here just to kind of, detail the growth in the e-commerce market in China. This one's really straightforward. User base has grown consistently year over year since 2016, actually extending considerably further back than that. E-commerce really blew up with the advent of Alipay, giving people an option to basically use escrow to make payments on e-commerce. There was a lot of trust issues at the outset. I think we actually in the US experienced a lot of that way back at kind of the conception of Amazon. And after those online payment programs, platforms became trusted, stable, e-commerce in China blew up. Alipay and WeChat Pay obviously being the major payment processing sites. Fully expectation that the growth that is getting projected, the growth we're looking at 2020 will continue. Same, no difference in the US. The difference though, that between the US and China is on the next slide. Next slide, Cassie. Thank you. It's just in the size of the market. China, as of last year, the forecast put them at $1.5 trillion in total revenue sales for retail products on e-commerce platforms. That compared to the United States is 600 billion. And all the trends see this growing, not just faster than anywhere else in the world, but in terms of real numbers, just larger than anywhere else in the world. You see the two numbers underneath the blue kind of dot where it's for China, 24%, 25%. 24% is the growth in compound annual growth rate for revenue specifically. And this is overall for the retail market, which is to say that amount of money going in, the amount of money being invested in e-commerce platforms and the rate of return is growing at 24%. That might be a little bit of weird squishy numbers for some folks. The number next to it is just the total retail value in USD, and that grew 25%, faster than really than anywhere else. So this is how people are buying things. I mean, again, maybe that seems intuitive for a lot of people, but kind of seeing the number and seeing where it's going, it was a kind of reminder to us that this is where California products have got to be visible going forward. And one more slide, the next slide, Cassie, we can show a little more about what's going on there. I apologize, this chart, we're trying to clean up a little bit. Our Economic Institute took a look at it to see if we could make it a little more intelligible. Obviously not everything is relevant in the e-commerce market to California exporters. So this chart, we were trying to take a look specifically at kind of fast-moving consumer urban retail market, which kind of excludes products like vehicles, anything requiring a loan, products that go on layaway, tickets, services, et cetera, et cetera. And taking all of those things out, what does the growth look like for the user base for kind of the traditional means of selling at retail and then the e-commerce platform? And e-commerce is just, I mean, it's right there. It's growing at a rate that, for point of reference, hypermarket, that one term folks might not understand. I mean, that's like all your traditional big box stores, stores with, cross industry products, your Walmarts, Carrefours, Metro, et cetera. So, e-commerce is kind of eating everybody's lunch. And what's not well represented here, because we just don't have the numbers for it yet, is what's been happening this year. So, and I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with the lockdown that happened in China during the early part of COVID-19. It happened over the Chinese New Year holiday, extended the holiday out about a month to a month and 2 to 3 weeks. And the shift, we were working with a analytics company. We actually did a webinar on this also. If anybody's interested, I could direct you back to that. It's kind of dry, honestly, but where we kind of looked at what e-commerce activity was happening specifically during the lockdown period in China. And you just saw the download for grocery applications, for delivery apps, and the user base for the e-commerce applications blew up. And again, this is one of the reasons we don't have it represented here. We can't make necessarily a clear inference of what will happen after that. It's going to take another year, but that usership didn't decline, which is really, again, kind of intuitive. Once you start using the convenience of e-commerce and the catalyst that was COVID, I don't know how familiar people are with Chinese New Year, but it's a bunch of sitting around with your family and eating. So you got to buy food, and the grocery stores are closed. So what are your options? No real surprise there that there was an explosion in the use of e-commerce to buy food products specifically. This is just kind of an overview of what's been going on. Again, if you're actually really interested in this and the data behind it, we do have a couple of other presentations we did. I think they're recorded. Again, kind of dry stuff, but if that's what you like, we can direct you that direction. Next slide, guys. So what are the options then for selling on e-commerce platforms in China? There's a bunch. There's really 3 big ones. We're working, for the project we're working to set up, we're working on TMall. TMall is a Alibaba Group subsidiary. It is effectively Amazon in terms of the breadth of products they sell. Works a little bit differently. The way you manage a store on TMall is different from how you manage one on Amazon. But you can think of it as being fairly similar. It's the largest of the 3 large e-commerce platforms. I believe it's $700 billion in sales last year. So if you remember, the chart put it at 1.5 trillion in sales over 2019. Huge chunk of that is just made up by TMall. So it seemed like kind of a no-brainer that if we were going to start a project, this is where we'd start. Host a whole bunch of brands, 4,000 product categories. That's going to be relevant here in a moment, as I kind of explained how we set our store, or we're working to set our store up. And it just kind of seemed like this is the right place to start. Interesting little anecdote. If you see the little cat there, TMall was mispronounced as TMall. When it started becoming popular in China. TMall, depending on how you pronounce it, means sky cat. So eventually they just adopted that, owned the fact that they sounded like a sky cat, and made the cat their logo. Just a little side note for you. Next slide. Awesome. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. For some background, when we discovered pretty early that in setting up a TMall store, really any e-commerce store, you basically have to have a trade partner, somebody in an established business in China that can handle a whole plethora of services. And I'm going to go into each of those services that we need for this store on the next slide. You also need somebody, though, who's kind of established to some degree their own TMall presence. And the reason for that is marketing, another thing I'm going to get to in a moment. One of our members at the council, Maybao, a California and Beijing company, came to us to help us get the concept for our TMall store started. There is pretty significant, we're looking at about $250,000 in upfront costs just to get a store registered, to get the website for the store up and running, and for kind of that initial minimum amount of marketing that's necessary just to get the store's products visible, or at least the store visible on TMall. Marketing, no surprise, is probably the largest continuing cost in trying to operate in the Chinese e-commerce space. Very competitive. It is $1.5 trillion, and it's not like people haven't noticed. So it's not an easy step for a small business to kind of just jump into. So having a trade partner is pretty essential, not just for the practical reasons of having somebody who can handle logistics and localized products and deal with customer service, manage the actual online store, et cetera. But also because just regulatorily, you must have a business established in China for at least 3 years as retail before you're even allowed to set up a key e-commerce store, another roadblock we ran into. So having a trade partner that you trust in China is pretty essential to getting a really robust, at least, e-commerce presence set up. There is another platform called TMall Global, which we do intend to take advantage of too, which makes this a little bit easier. Those upfront barriers aren't quite as bad, but it doesn't fix the problem of needing a trade partner for all of those practical reasons anyway. So for our part, Maybao has been a member of the council for a number of years. They were interested in trying to make a TMall project for California work. This is kind of who they are, just so you know who we've decided to work with. They're a producer of medication, skincare, healthcare products, some nutraceuticals, and they have a pretty robust TMall presence, which will help direct traffic from their current platform over to the store that we're trying to set up. Cassie, if you can move on to the next slide. So this is just an overview of the services you kind of have to have from a trade partner, China side, who's supporting you on this. Obviously, the actual registration of the store, whether it's TMall Global, TMall, or the normal domestic TMall, you need some entity over there that's going to help you get that registered. You've got to make sure all your products are trademarked as they go into the country. So you're protected from IP theft. That's a support that the TMall, that a trade partner will help provide. Localization, obviously everything needs to be relabeled for the Chinese market. The actual store needs to be set up. Customer service, I don't think it's a surprise there that if somebody doesn't get their product right away, and I'd say that the demands for customer service are pretty intense in China. There's largely an expectation that after you make an order, it's going to be there the same day. If it's not there the same day, it better be really out of stock or a high demand item where people are a little bit of sensitivity to a slow delivery of the next day. And given the cost of logistics in China, a lot of that same day delivery is just built into the price of products. Customer service is a pretty important service for running a TMall store. Marketing, again, keeping products visible in a very competitive e-commerce space, extremely important. There is, again, a minimum amount of money that needs to get invested in the store just to make it visible. But this also is why it's very helpful to have an established TMall partner while you're setting a store up. It's because they can use their current user base, their current client base, and direct them to partner stores that they're helping to support. So for example, Maybao store gets about 1.2 million eyes a day. Those eyes can just get direct, they can put some advertising on their own site, get those eyes looking at the California store that we're trying to set up, get some relatively fast, quick, cheap advertising. Now, I would say that for anybody who, whether they wanted to work with us on our platform or if they're setting up their own, be aware. Marketing can get expensive, especially if you really want to get aggressive and make sure you're at the top of search results. People invest hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in just TMall marketing. It's a mixed bag on results. That's something, again, very helpful to have a trade partner to help you navigate that e-commerce marketing space. Store operations, order fulfillment, I think that's fairly self-explanatory. But yeah, someone's got to handle the local logistics. So this is kind of regardless of who you're working, this is just what you're going to need. And again, maybe a lot of this is fairly intuitive. Wasn't incredibly intuitive for us until we just said, hey, well, let's just open a site and see who comes. No, yeah, that is not good enough. So this is what we've kind of realized what we need if we're going to be successful at a scale that will actually be helpful. Cassie, if you had next slide. Okay, so this is kind of how we have structured the store we're trying to put together. Now, I mentioned earlier in this presentation that the categories, the 4,000 categories on TMall is going to be relevant. And this is where it becomes relevant. TMall makes it somewhat challenging for foreign exporters to just export a broad category of products. In order to start a store that is not category specific, and by category I mean like a specific kind of subset industry of products, it all has to be exported through kind of a single business that supports that store in the country of origin. So an exporter couldn't just send it directly to their partner in China. They would, or sell directly to their partner in China. They'd have to first sell through a single exporter, then have everything kind of labeled appropriately under that single exporter, and then sent over to China. No surprise that adds an additional cost, quite a not insignificant cost, having yet another company, kind of another middleman in the layer of the kind of company structure. So we, in order to make this kind of approachable and as low cost as we possibly can, we are trying to set up a single category store. The category that we've selected is agricultural and manufactured food products, which actually also includes some cosmetics and also kind of like some soaps, some beauty products, and nutraceuticals. It's a fairly broad category, which and a lot of products that California exports. This motivation was also kind of a result of looking at the most recent, and who knows what actually happens, most recent version of the US-China trade deal, which there are pretty significant purchase mandates for agriculture and food products. Now, a lot of that has not been realized in 2020. It is a 2-year trade deal. And again, things could change anytime, that could be canceled. But for the time being, still on the table. And a lot of the 2020 purchase requirements for food and agricultural products are going to get shifted into 2021 because COVID-19 has made this year not only difficult economically, but logistically and for all kinds of, I don't need to explain this, I'm sure, to a lot of people on this call. The approach that we're taking here, sorry, I lost my train of thought there a little bit, is kind of based on trying to see where we can get the most for the best, avoid the most tariffs, get the most interest, and maybe hopefully take advantage of some preferential policies that may come from those large purchase mandates for 2021 around food and agriculture. We don't really know. And again, things could get canceled at any time. But all the advice we've gotten is that food and agricultural products are the most kind of easily exported, is kind of consumer demand products to get on TMall. So that's kind of been our target. This is kind of how we've set this up. I'm going to go through this little kind of company structure piece by piece now, and kind of show you the relationships between each of the entities within it. So Cassie, you can move on to the next slide. So the effective relationship, I'm sorry, lost my page there. The relationship between a California exporter, potentially you, and Maybao, the company serving as the trade partner for the store we're working to build up, is pretty straightforward. Maybao's trying to is trying to set up 2 kind of purchase models or sales models through the e-commerce store. One in which they just operate as a wholesaler. An exporter could just sell wholesale to Maybao, and Maybao is just responsible for the e-commerce sales. That's kind of the end of the relationship. For companies that Maybao has expressed to us, they feel really, really strongly about their products. They're kind of willing to do this in order to move the store forward, get some traction. but for the most part, the goal, what they're trying to set up is more of a consignment model, kind of more of a traditional e-commerce model, where a California exporter will take a certain amount of product, ship it to the Shenzhen warehouse for Meibao. There would then be obviously a account manager assigned to that product. They get it up on the store, and the exporter here, California side, will get paid on retail sales. So after products get sold, I'm not sure if it's weekly or monthly when they close the accounts and pay the exporters back. But effectively, the exporter receives payment on retail sale. Now, the upside to that is hopefully we can get people closer to an actual retail price. We cut out a lot of the services that stand between. In fact, there's really only one layer here. Of course, there's also the logistics companies, so there's that too. But in terms of actual administration, there's really only one layer between the manufacturer and the retail consumer. Hopefully that's actually how this thing works out. But in terms of, but hopefully this kind of explains the relationship between the actual trade partner and the California supplier. Happy to answer questions about that at the end if I haven't explained that well. Cassie, you can move on to the next slide. As far as what the CA suppliers need to do, they can work with their own logistics team partners if they want to get things shipped to Shenzhen. But once products are in the Shenzhen bonded warehouse, they're basically labeled through customs and ready for retail sale in China. So the California suppliers effectively have just two relationships, one with the logistics partner, one with Meibao. And then that's pretty much the end of it. Now, this could be more complicated, depending if people want to really invest heavily in their own products marketing in China. There are a lot more services that somebody could purchase. And I also want to reiterate that Meibao is the partner we're working with to set up the store we're trying to put together. You could work with any trade partner you wanted to. And if you are really ambitious, really want to set your own store up, totally encourage you to do that. We can help you to whatever degree you would like. If you want to try to find another trade partner in China, we could help try to make some connections. But I'm using Meibao in all the examples here because, again, that's just what we're using for our store. Once things are in that bonded warehouse, it's effectively out of the exporter's responsibility. For them, they just need to monitor the amount of stock left at that warehouse, the amount of sales, and collect. Cassie, if you move on to the next slide. What happens in China side once that product actually lands at the warehouse? Again, I've kind of described a lot of the services already that Meibao is going to be providing, or any trade partner. Again, any trade partner you'd be using would end up having be providing. But as far as what happened, so if you see all the services here, these are all the services that are going to mark the price up for the final consumer. So an exporter, when you're working with a trade partner, you should know in advance what, the agreement should be built around what price you will be receiving after a sale. Meibao then will tack on additional fees that the retail consumer will realize. But once that sale happens, the trade partner should be paying the manufacturer back at whatever rate was agreed on when the whether it's again consignment or wholesale, whatever that was set at. Now again, that could change after on a second purchase or a second shipment, but that's what the exporter should expect. So that final price to consumers obviously is going to be higher than that. Meibao has a lot of services they need to provide, but they'll work directly with TMall to get to complete orders and then collect payment. Cassie, we'll move on to the next slide. And then this is just how the money goes back to the exporter. All revenues come back to Meibao after a purchase. They would take out their share of fees for services and then pay the California-based manufacturer. Again, you should know in advance what to expect after a sale and what you'll be receiving from Maybao. That won't be, will not come as a surprise. One good thing is that you will be paid here. Maybao, and you would want this from any TMall partner, you'd want a company that is operating in both China and the US. And Maybao is both a US importer and exporter and a China-based importer and exporter. The reason for this is that you do not really want to wait for your payments to get processed and then expatriated if you can avoid it. Now, for export sales, there aren't additional taxes that are relevant there, but there can be just a delay. We've seen this with a bunch of different industries where, especially in service sectors, where for all kinds of banking reasons and a lot of explanations that need to be submitted to banks when making large payments outside of the country can just create a delay in accounts payable. So working with a company that already has established a business in the U.S. that can pay directly from the US, whatever was collected China side, simplifies that process a ton. So if in an ideal situation, any trade partner you'd be working with is already operating on both sides of the Pacific. I'm leaving, you'll notice that I put us in here. And I've put us in here because at this point in the process of putting our own store together, I'm not entirely confident how much work we're going to have to put into this after the store is set up. If we need to start, if this ends up being a process where we have to actually really get involved with accounts as an account manager or supporting California exporters in that relationship with Maybao, or more likely dealing with any novel products that actually have to get customs clearance. I'm kind of talking about like maybe synthetic foods, things that have just recently got FDA approval. There is potentially a lot more paperwork that has to go into getting that type of thing into a bonded warehouse. Now, again, if it's nuts or any kind of just store-ready product that's already on the shelf today in the U.S., unlikely that's going to be a problem. But I just add that in there because there can be trade issues that require a lot more of our work. And I want to be fully transparent that, we're at this point in putting this project together, not totally clear how much of the Bay Area Council's time and how much of our staff China side need to be in this project. Year one, though, we're not expecting to have to be doing, adding any additional costs to this thing. We're just trying to get it off the ground. Okay, I think we move on to the next slide. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. We've obviously learned a lot from trying to put this store together. I hope I've given you an overview of at least that will be applicable to how you might go about this, assuming you want to do this on your own. We would invite anybody who can kind of fit the product category of what we're trying to do to join us. We'd be happy, if anybody like to get in touch with us and see how, if we can help you get on this platform we're setting up, welcome any inquiries. Excuse me. I guess I just add one thing that I did forget to mention. As I said earlier, it is a very competitive space, e-commerce in China. It's not just, yeah, you throw it out there, people will buy it. I mean, there are a lot of people buying things, but no surprise, everybody wants a deal if they can get it. So finding your consumers in China within that 900 million user base isn't necessarily the easiest. I did bring up marketing, but one additional service that we're going to try to help out with, and Maybao will help out with too, is if you're interested in working with us on this platform, we'll help out with doing some advanced business development work. Try to make sure that you actually have a good market and make sure that the likelihood of being able to sell at a price that is going to be tenable for you is there. The last thing we want is people to ship, some products over that we haven't even been able to really test the waters on at all, and they just kind of sit there. So we will try to minimize the potential of that for anybody working with us with doing some of that upfront work. Obviously, no guarantees in anything, but at least we can do that. Yeah, I think that kind of leaves it. I'll hand it back to you, Saori, and appreciate everybody's attention.
Thank you, Alex. That was great. I hope everyone was able to take notes and take in this opportunity that Alex and Bay Area Council is presenting. And we have a number of questions to get to. I want to thank everyone for pre-submitting your questions in the registration. I'll go ahead and touch upon a few, and then we'll go ahead and transition into the live questions. If that's cool with everyone, I'll go ahead and ask the first question that was pre-submitted. This attendee asks, how would one get started on this platform? What is the process like as far as working with Bay Area Council and MBDA?
Yeah, sure. So part one, let's talk. The kind of things we need to know are, what is the product that you would like to sell? Is there kind of do you have a quantity, a known quantity that that you'd be interested in, or you'd be willing to put on this platform? At that point, we'll just start doing some business development work. We'll look at what you're interested in trying to sell. We'll work with MBDA to try to figure out whether or not there's a really viable market for it. And then it's really come to, at the end of that point, we will just get you introduced to the trade partner. Again, the actual terms of the contract is going to be between MBDA and the trade partner and you, the manufacturer. We're not going to be a part of that. We're a nonprofit. I don't think we can be a part of that. But we can kind of help facilitate with the any of the relations work that needs to happen, make sure that you're getting the responses you need to get, et cetera. So it starts with a call and some information for us to understand what it is you want to put out there. Again, I just add that if it is a product that doesn't fit our category or selected category, we probably can't be helpful yet. Hoping in the future we'll be able to expand, but we're starting here.
Great, thanks. Moving on to the next question. Are you currently working with Alibaba e-commerce to facilitate this project, or are you in communication with them on any other level?
Sure. So Alibaba Group, we've worked with them on a number of different projects, and the recent Alibaba Global project, we've helped them do a couple events. I think Cal Asia Chamber's done the same. We are not working with Alibaba on this. We're working with the TMall team. Obviously, I understand TMall is a subsidiary of Alibaba, but they are a different business, they are their own global business. They have their own global platform, and we have been working with them to get you have to, of course, been working with them to get this set up. So I guess that as far as Alibaba Group's concerned, we haven't really been working with them on this project specifically. The folks we know are aware that we're trying to do it, and we're hopeful that maybe we can bring some real attention to this from Alibaba Group and in a way that will support California exporters and help recover from COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But no, I guess the short answer is they're not really involved in the actual administration of this project.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so we'll move on to some of these live questions. One question is, what percentage of each end user sales price does the exporter actually realize?
Right. So I think I covered this a little bit earlier. And again, the only reason I can't answer that is because you should know in advance at the time of setting up the contract with TMall what price you will expect, regardless of what they end up adding on. That's part of our work doing the business development work in advance so that we know what end price it can sell for. At that point, MBDA will know what their fees will need to be in order to eventually recoup their services, and they'll know what chunk of that end price they'll be able to afford to the exporter. If that price doesn't match up with what the exporter can actually sell at, then it is what it is. And again, not every product will necessarily be competitive. But before you even get into a contract with MBDA, you should know what price to expect. I guess I can't really throw a specific percentage on because, a product that is just really expensive to manufacture, the costs on top of that will be relatively similar to a product that's fairly cheap. And it'll just kind of come down to the volume of expected sales, what the actual percentage works out to.
Yes, and next question from Denise. In order to be a part of the trade program, do we need a demand partner?
A demand partner. If you mean a trade partner, then if you are to set up your own TMall store, definitely. Unless you have been operating a retail store in China for at least 3 years. That said, you will probably still need to purchase a lot of the services that a trade partner would provide from somebody else, unless you are able to do all the marketing and all the customer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Unless you can do all those things, then you would probably need to work with somebody, again, just for practical purposes. But I guess if the question is, must you have a trade partner? The answer is only yes, if you do not have kind of an established retailer in China already.
Great. And next question, is Maybao helping exporters determine the list price that is displayed on TMall?
Yeah. So that again, in advance, we should know what that list price will be so that Maybao and the exporter can determine what the actual price the exporter is going to realize is. Again, I'd say that in those occasions where Maybao is feeling really confident and is able to purchase wholesale in advance, this is kind of a moot question. That'll just be a sale contract directly between Maybao and the exporter. But in most cases, especially for smaller exporters, can't provide a large quantity of product, then yes, you will know the list price in advance. You'll know the price you will receive in advance of any deal you would actually set up with the trade partner.
Great, thank you. And the next question, does the product origination have to be from the United States? What if the product is made in another country, but there's a demand for the product in China?
Sure. So the short answer is, yeah, we can't, as much as I would love to make this a business for everybody, we're really focused on California exporters. And kind of as our mandate, at least as a part of the California China Trade Network member, we're exports from California to China is everything that we're putting this platform together for. With that said, there are some pseudo exceptions. So for example, I was speaking with an exporter down in Imperial County a while back. They had an avocado product that was actually grown in Mexico, but was manufactured here. So that still for us is a California export product. It employs people here in California. Yes, it has a supply chain, excuse me. It has a supply chain that extends past California, but that's fine. As long as California is a part of the export process, and the people are employed in California within the supply chain, realistically, California should be the final point at which the product is manufactured and exported. Avocados grown in California, shipped to Mexico, manufactured in Mexico, and then gone the other way. I know we'd have to talk to GoBiz, see what they think about that. If it is entirely manufactured, grown, if California is no part of the supply chain at all, yeah, I don't think we will really be able, but not really within the purview of this project.
All right, let's see. What is the cost of setting up your TMall, and what is the marketing cost to develop a successful business on the platform? In short, is there an estimated total cost that would?
Sure. So right now, for us to just get the thing set up and have a minimum amount invested in just getting some visibility for the store, we're putting our budget at about $270,000. Now we're taking advantage of a lot of support from Maybao to get the price that low. If we had not had a good relationship with them for a while, if they were not supportive members of the council, I don't think that we would be getting that, because we're getting a lot of their web development support for free. basically. So there are a lot of costs that are being shaved off of that. But in terms of just straight upfront costs that we cannot avoid, we're looking at about $270,000. When you say successful, I think that is a relative question to a degree. For an exporter who really wants to explode their business in e-commerce, that budget can get real high. And it's basically just a marketing cost. I'm afraid I don't really have a good estimate for exactly like, a monthly cost for search result advertising, or a monthly cost for banner advertising. For the most part, all the advertising you'd want to do is on the platform itself, because, how valuable is it? There are, if you were in a place where you could really do a pan media campaign, et cetera, then I think you're in a place where you probably have a TMall your own TMall partner and your own store. Within the purview of this, I think that, you could expect to do a minimum amount of sales, be successful in terms of, just selling the product that you'd like to get out there in at least, moderate quantity, with just the support from Maybao and their marketing support for the store broadly. But yeah, you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for sure in advertising on the TMall platform in order to make sure that your product specifically was way up the search results whenever somebody said, I'm looking for olive oil, I'm looking for flaxseed oil. I would say that typically speaking, that is money usually well invested. If you're pretty high up the search results, you get a lot of people buying stuff. But there's also other approaches. There's ways third-party advertisers will help make sure that you have lots of great reviews. There's sneaky things people do on TMall to really get an edge. I think it was actually not long ago, there was it was in the news that a bunch of Americans around were getting packets of seeds delivered to them around the country. And they were all from China, and there was some like, is this some kind of, conspiracy or something? And it wasn't that at all. It was a bunch of advertisers in China trying to generate sales for a product. And they were just shipping seeds out there and then to random people, and then assigning kind of a user review to the shipment, and the person, of course, receiving the seeds never bought the thing. So TMall's been doing their best to crack down on that kind of behavior. But that is just to say there's lots of things people do within the advertising range to just try to get an edge in that market. Again, one of the reasons we really want to work with a trade partner that's established, because in my mind, the greatest value initially in that we can get in advertising is getting all those Maybao buyers to just look at the store. But yeah, I guess the short answer is in working with Maybao, we're going to try and make sure that anybody who was using the program, this platform, has a reasonable shot at getting the products that Maybao intends to get on it sold within the scope of the store we're putting together in this kind of first year.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Moving on to the next question. Could you run through the product categories that you're seeking for this program? And is wine one of them?
God, I wish wine was one of them. I'm really sorry. Alcohol, unfortunately, gets its own whole category, and it's a real pain. And we've been thinking maybe we could find a way to set a whole different store up just to try to sell alcohol. It would mean a whole different, it would have to be set up as a different store, it would have to be set up as a different store most likely. Then all those upfront investments would have to probably get made again. If there's anybody out there that really wants to sell wine on e-commerce in China and we'd be happy to try to work with you if those kind of upfront costs are not something that you would balk at, to set up a store for wine for California. God, I wish that was a category. I wish that was included in food. For the things that we're really looking for, in order to make these products really competitive in e-commerce, we're going for kind of like the the brand placement of California being as high quality and organic, et cetera, as possible. So we can command the highest prices we can. Generally speaking, I don't think we, as an imported product, we could even compete on price if that were the first, you know, we're never going to be the cheapest thing. So we're not going to look for the cheapest products. We're going to look for the kind of highest quality products and try to go for those consumers. So with that said, we're ideally looking for dry storage food products, manufactured food products that are dry storage. You know, refrigeration adds a whole nother cost. And then obviously there's a perishable nature to those products that, you know, if they don't sell fast enough, we don't want any major losses. So until there's really an established chain for them, we prefer to stay away from products that require refrigeration. So, you know, dry storage, high quality, you know, things with the term organic, for products with the, that can be placed as high a quality as possible. So we can associate that with the term, with, you know, California as a brand, and which already has something of a perception of being high quality products. But within that, you know, there's if it's a food product ready for sale, especially anything that's on the shelves today, in California. Ideally, you know, we're looking for a lot of boutique products. Stuff that people haven't seen in China would be great. If it's a product that's already selling well in China and you'd like to use this, and I'm sure we could look into that too. There are, you know, nutraceuticals, are extremely popular in China. You know, antioxidants, you know, vitamins, etc. Anything in that line would definitely be something that would work for this store. I would also say that, like, some high-end beauty products or cosmetics, there's some kind of limitations that we're still trying to find the walls of what is considered something that can be sold in food and what is like a different product category. So we're happy to talk about it, and we'll figure that out with you as we get through it. If you have kind of a cosmetic or beauty product you really want to, or hygiene product that you're interested in selling. Yeah, I guess I hope that kind of shapes what we're looking for. Yeah, if there's any other questions, if I haven't answered that well, let me know. Again, it's such a broad category, it's kind of hard to say, you know, it's just these things. But I'd say product quality is definitely and dry storage. Being dry storage and high quality are kind of the focus.
Great, thanks, Alex. And we'll have time for one more question. And one of the attendees has asked if we have any success stories from TMall or maybe from Maybao that you'd be willing to share to the audience today.
Sure, so we are just getting this thing set up. I wish we had some success stories. Our launch day, hopefully, we will have enough products that are ready for launch. For the California International Import Expo at the start of next month. That's what we're aiming for. And we're aiming for that because we are trying to roll in all the media attention that we would normally get from hosting the pavilion at CIIE into visibility for a California TMall store. I mean, we're just basically trying to get as much free promotion as we can. Now Maybao has sold a lot of international products under their brand. I would be happy, I should ask them before I put anybody on blast. I mean, you can certainly look at Maybao, it's MEBO. They sell a lot of products under that blanket. Most of them, of course, they sell in China. You can certainly look out there. Yeah, I guess before I'd say, point out any of the major successes under the Maybao current store, I would first like to just check with them and see what they would like to advertise as big successes. But as far as this store goes, we're opening next month, hopefully. The short answer is no. I have no major success stories for you yet. Hopefully 2021 is full of success stories. Or we have a fourth quarter win here in 2020.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. That was great. I hope you're doing okay after all those questions, but we want to make sure that everyone has, as complete of a picture as we can at the moment, and happy to be a part of these initiatives that Alex and his team are putting together. We know that it's a very difficult time for businesses, so we want to, provide as much opportunity now and for the future for all of you. So if this particular opportunity does not suit your industry or you feel you aren't particularly ready, contact our center, the Sacramento MBDA. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your struggles are. And maybe it's another webinar about those e-commerce statistics, the dry ones, maybe that will help you make, informed decisions on what market you want to enter into or areas that you want to focus on. So we highly encourage all of you to get into contact with our center, as well as Vega Council and Alex to gain more information about these opportunities. Following this webinar, directly after this webinar, there'll be a survey. And so we want to know, what do you need? Is it opportunities? Is it access to capital? And your comments, did you like this webinar? Was it informative? And what do you want to see next? This will really help us shape, the next few months within 2020 as well as in 2021. And with that being said, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you, Saori, for being here as well to represent MBDA. And we'll follow up with the recording and make sure you have all the resources necessary to make an informed decision and to take the next step wherever that may be. So thank you all for joining. Hope you have a good rest of your day and week, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.